everybody, how's it going? It's Jessie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff here on FlossTube. I am coming to you on this Tuesday, January 28th, 2020 with my next update video. Quick turnaround, so you know what that means. Yep, pretty quick video I should expect. But that's kind of intentional. So before I get into that, I just want to say welcome to any returning viewers. Thanks for coming back week to week-ish. And to any new viewers, thank you so much for coming and checking me out. On this channel I talk mostly about cross-stitch, but occasionally I will talk about books and knitting and life stuff as it pertains. Quick update today. That's kind of intentional. There's a few reasons. The biggest ones are, first of all, last week's video took another almost half a day to upload, which is silliness, but I'm having an issue with my laptop saving. That's really what the bulk of the time spent is. So anyway, so I figure a shorter video will sort of cut down on that, hopefully. The other is that the weather is garbage today. It was supposed to be sunny today. I was full on expecting it to be a beautiful day, great for filming, and it's just not. It's gray. So all of our colors are going to be off kilter, and like, what are you going to do? I could film tomorrow, but I can't actually because Thor has a vet appointment, and I expect that may take a good portion of the day, if not all of it. So there's that. So it's an intentionally quick turnaround and a shorter video for all of those factors. Okay, so Q&A I'm not doing this week, in part because the weather. It's a little bit later in the day than I normally like to start filming, and so I know that I'm going to start losing the light, what overcast light we've got. I'm going to lose that, and I am going to start with my Stitch With Me's next week. So at the end of last year, I proposed the idea of doing Stitch With Me videos during the weeks where I'm working on in this moment, just to sort of break up the monotony and to throw in some more variety, as it's the spice of life, as they say. And so that's going to start up next week. It didn't work in January because it took me forever to film in January. That's cool. Next week, I'm going to start doing Stitch With Me's. I expect that the majority of those are going to be set to music. But next week I'm going to do the Q&A stuff from the last month. I've got quite a bit of a backlog to catch up on, and so I just thought that it would be kind of entertaining to give y'all something to listen to while you watch me stitch on in this moment next week. If I have mapped it out correctly, then at that point next week, if I film on Wednesday, I'll be in the process of finishing page 12 at that point, but we'll see how it all shakes up. You never know with life and stuff. The good news is with doing Stitch With Me's, it doesn't matter what the weather looks like outside. I can film those regardless, so that's pretty great. So we're going to do that next week. So this week I have a couple of whips to talk to you about. I have some stash, including the chart that I had last week, but I decided to hold off until this week. Now it's this week, so we'll do that. A little bit about some plans. And then a couple of books, one of which I expect will be very brief, a very brief discussion on. So yeah, just a few things to talk about, and then we'll be on our merry way. So without further ado, let's switch over and start talking about some works in progress. Here's my trademark expression saying, lead off with whips. Last time we spoke, I was working on Leah Gronow 1872 by Merry Wind Farm. This was my one of my Whip Go draws for January, and so it was getting some attention. So under normal circumstances, I would show you this last because I'm actually working on it today, but I'm gonna lead with it. So this is what she will look like finished. At the beginning of the year, I set my goal for this to be a finish. And that's some ambitious goals. And I had a look at my goals, and I had to reduce some, just being a realist. The optimist in me would like to finish this, but the realist in me is like, maybe 3 pages would be great. So that's pretty substantial the top row of pages is, I want to say, about down to there. So about down to there, all the way across. So that's a pretty substantial portion of the pattern. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to focus on the top third. It's 9 pages, but the bottom row is like, I don't know. It's a small page. Anyway, 3 pages. That's going to be my goal for the year. It's still up in the air as to whether I will reach that goal, but it's a little bit more possible. Yeah, we'll go with that. It's more possible now with reducing it. So I am stitching this on a 32 count Belfast linen in Vintage Meadow Roof from Lakeside Linens. And I did not stitch on this enough last week. Not enough at all. Okay, so let me see if I can hold the top end back so that y'all can see this. And I've done quite a little bit today, just getting going. So when last you guys saw this, I had done these berries, or flowers, those ones there. And so before I put this project down, all I did was the geranium color for this 2 set. That's it. That's all I managed before the weekend. And then here today, I've gone through and added in the Victorian rose for all of these, and I've started on the vine work. So that's where I'm up to. The colors are not going to be great today, so I'm not going to fight with it for too long. I do adore this. I really enjoy working on it. I'm disappointed that I didn't get to put in the time last week like I wanted, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. That's the way it goes sometimes. And obviously I'm a long ways off from reaching my goal. So yeah. The bottom of the page extends further down than what I've got done here. So quite a lot left to reach that goal. But I'm enjoying it. This is using the Gentle Art sampler threads. It calls for in Gentle Arts wool, but Melinda gives you the conversion to just regular cotton threads. And she also gives you the amounts that you're going to need. The only change that I've made is that the geranium is supposed to be Buckeye Scarlet, but honestly, if I didn't tell y'all, I don't think you'd be able to tell the difference. So I'm good with it. I really like it. So there's that, and I love the color of this fabric. It's pretty gorgeous. So there is Leah Gronow. I will continue working on her through today. Today is her last day for this rotation. Because this rotation isn't finished, I'm not going to do any before and afters for her. The next project I have to show you is Rose Fairy by Joan Elliott. I worked on this last week for my daily 30, and I'm going to pick that up again here, probably not today. I'm going to do daily 30 on something else because I'm working on too many things today. I don't want to add in a third, so this will pick up probably tomorrow or maybe Thursday. Anyway, so this is going to be the progress from last week with Daily 30. This is Rose Fairy by Joan Elliott. This is my oldest whip. And yep, so that's what she will look like finished. The only exception is that I have removed the wings. I'm not doing the wings. She is being done on a 28 count Lugana in Confetti by Picture This Plus. And here is where she is currently. So this last week, I did do some stitching, some actual crosses, finishing out some of the colors in this flower here. There's quite a bit of green stuff that I did this week. But if I'm honest, the majority of my time was spent starting on the backstitch because backstitch is one of Joan Elliott's favorite things. I'm convinced of it. And so I have started working on the backstitch in her skirt in here. So let me see if I can bring that in a little bit closer so that y'all can see that I have indeed started on the backstitch. And so it really does bring it to life. I mean, you can see the folds like in here where I haven't done any backstitch yet. You can see the separation between those two, but it really does sort of give a finished look to it. So I'm pretty pleased with the way that looks. So yeah, I did a little bit more than just the 30 minutes. I needed 100 stitches in pink for a challenge. So there's a little bit extra work put into this, but not by a whole lot. So I'm gonna pick this back up, like I said, probably tomorrow, maybe Thursday, and continue on the daily 30. This is gonna bleed into planes a little bit, but I think that I might try to do daily 30 every single day in February, 1 through 29. It's a shorter month, so it's a great month to give this a try, but to try to do 30 minutes every day, I think that would be cool and maybe get me, dare I say, closer to the finish. That'd be so awesome. So that is Rosemary. So this weekend was 24 hours of cross stitch. It was the first marathon event of 2020, and I was really excited. I was ready to try to push myself and see how much I could get done. Did I meet any of my goals? Nope. Nope. I set the goal at 3,000 stitches to try to manage 24 hours within the 48. None of those things happened. None of them. I did stitch quite a bit, and I stitched the majority of Saturday except for that big nap. Pro tip: if you're doing a marathon of stitching, do not have pancakes for breakfast. A nap will ensue. It will. It absolutely will. And that's what happened. I had a sugary breakfast, and so midday I was like, nap sounds good. Anyway, so I was working on In This Moment. I had done 13 days on this project previously, and I try to do 14 days a month. Listen to me, I try. I have started trying to do 14 days a month on this project each month. Words are hard. So this is In This Moment by Heaven and Earth Designs, artwork by Mayhew. And this is on a 25 count cream Lugana from Zweigart. Lots of Lugana, which is not really my thing. It is for full coverage, but anyway. And so I was working on page 12. By the end of it all, I think I did like 2,800 stitches, but that included what I did yesterday, because I did work on this yesterday. So page 12 here. So a little bit more background and a little bit more hair is really what we accomplished. You'll be able to see the better difference when I do my before and afters on this one. This is done 1/1 full cross on that 25 count, by the way. Let me fold in a little bit. So there she is. I love it. I do. I really enjoy it. I like the way that this page is coming together because the background is fairly quick and easy. And then we have where we're fading in from background into hair that's super confetti heavy. And then the hair is really simple. On this page, the hair is super, super easy because it's almost like this is the hair that's in foreground. No, background. Whereas over here it was in foreground. So we're getting more of the darker shades, but there's really only a few of the darker shades there. Anyway, I like that page. I like the way it's coming together. I'm enjoying it. I am just over the halfway point on it now, and I have reached the right side of the page. Up here. You can barely see that because those background colors are pretty soft and neutral. Anyway, so that's cool. That is where I got to on In This Moment. I managed 200 stitches on Sunday because I was up until 4 in the morning, Sunday morning. And I used to be able to do that. Like, I used to be able to stay up until the sun rises, go to bed for a few hours, get up the next day, be a little groggy, but human. I could not wake up on Sunday. I could not. I was stitching and falling asleep with my needle in my hand, so I abandoned it, and I decided to carry on yesterday and work on her just a little bit more to get to the halfway point on the page. So that is that. I'm hoping that my next marathon I can do a little better. I need to manage my time a little better. and no more pancakes. Having shown you what I'm currently working on, let's switch over and let's talk about some plans. In plans, a few things. I still need to work on Halloween Sampler. The B section for Alphabet Soup is due today. So you can bet that once I get this uploading, that's going to be task priority number 1. So I'm working on that. Working on Leah Gronow through today. And I have about 500 stitches left to get for an event, so it may bleed over a little bit into tomorrow. I don't know if I can get both B is for Broom as well as 500 stitches on Leah Gronow today. I just don't know if that's going to be feasible. So that is how it's going to work. I will continue on it tomorrow if need be. Tomorrow I'm also starting Snow Garden. Anniversaries of the Heart is starting tomorrow, and I'm really excited about it. I showed you guys that last week, so I didn't bring it here to show you today. And I will work on that through the end of the month. So then we get into February. And I'm not going to go into specific details about how I'm going to organize February and what I'm going to be working on for what. Most of the things I don't know. But I do know that I'll be working on In This Moment through the 16th, the 1st through the 16th. The reason for that is that Full Coverage Fanatics is having a February event in which we are to work on a project that we love. I believe it's called All You Need Is Love. And that is from the 14th through the 16th, so coinciding with Valentine's Day. And so I'm just going to continue on with In This Moment through the 16th. I managed a little over 11,000 stitches on that this month, which is great. And if I could repeat that next month and get 2 pages done in February, that would be swell. I'd have 3 pages done in 2 months, well on my way to my 100,000. So we'll see how it goes. Yesterday, in the WIPGO 2020 group, we did our WIPGO draws. And I'm not going to spoil which numbers were called, just in case you guys are participating in WIPGO and you haven't seen that yet. But I would like to show you guys what my projects are. So one of mine is Nantucket Rose by Lavender and Lace. And I'm just going to show you before and after, or befores here, my starting points on these, because with my Stitch With Me plans, yeah, it just makes sense. How about that? How's that for explanation? It makes sense. This is on a 32 count Belfast in Flex by Zweigart, and that's where I'm starting from. I'm going to show these very briefly because I just showed them in the WIP parade a couple weeks ago. So there's that. Hope to give that 5 days. My goal for that piece is 5 days, so if I could mark one complete finally, I'd be all about that. My next one is not going to be able to be marked off in February. My goal for it is 10 days, and that is Elephants by Jayne, Netley, Mayhew, coming from this book, Cross Stitch Safari. In the WIP parade, I told you guys that I couldn't find it. And so a quick shout out here to a couple of you who offered to send me your copies of the book. I so appreciate you. I went and looked on my bookshelf exactly where it was supposed to be, and wouldn't you believe it, it was right there. In alphabetical order with my cross-stitch books. Who would imagine? Anyway, so this is the cross-stitch Safari book, and Elephants. Oh, I forgot. There are some things in here that I would really like to stitch. There is Elephants. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And so this is on a 28 count linen from Fabric Flare in Aqua, I believe. And I haven't worked on this except for like 10 minutes in 2018. I haven't put any significant time into this in a very long time. I think January 2017 was the last time I really, really worked on this, which is a tragedy. So I'm really looking forward to getting into this. I normally set my goal in this project to finish it, and then for whatever reason, that proves to be the stumbling block and I don't work on it. So I set it at 10 days, and we'll see what 10 days gets me. Maybe 10 days gets me to fall in love with this again in a I must finish this now kind of a sense. That's the hope. I love these guys, and I am looking forward to working on it here in February. I have a couple of other things that I'm going to be working on in February, but I'll talk about those as we get closer to them. Because I'm doing the Stitch With Me's, my rotations on one of these may start before I do a full-blown update again, and so it just kind of makes more sense for me to show them. That's me making sense of it. So that is it for the plans. Now I think we're going to switch over and talk about some stash acquisitions. In stash, I have just a couple of things to go over with you. One is a chart that I ordered before the end of the year, before the end of last year. I was ordering some threads, and no threads should travel without a chart companion. And I found this was on clearance, and it's kind of weird, and I kind of like it. So this is Queenstown Sampler Designs, and it is Hestera Harmer 1843. And I was kind of drawn to it because of those golden yellows, which is just kind of a predominant color in this. It's pretty. I really like it. It's kind of weird though. Like, the basket of flowers is kind of on this pedestal, this dais. That's kind of different. And the verse kind of got me too. She's kind of snarky, Miss Hestera. All you, my friends, who now express to see a piece of work thus performed by me, cast but a smile on this my poor endeavor. May I ever strive, there we go, it's a T, not an E. May I ever strive to be obedient ever. She's pretty snarky. And she was 10 when she did this. So that's pretty cool. And it was on clearance when I picked it up. So I like that quite a lot. Okay, I'll go over this. Okay, so Semi-Sane Stitchers is a challenge group, and throughout the course of the year, you earn entries into things. And at the end of the year, they do some drawings, and I was a winner. I was a little bit flabbergasted, but I won a $20 gift certificate to the online stitchy shop of my choice, and I decided to go with 123 Stitch. So what I picked up, I had a bunch of things in my cart. I had charts and fabrics and things that I wanted, and I ultimately decided to go with some things that I needed. Just try to go the smart route. I'm trying to do Stitch from Stash, and one thing that I am doing this year is Anniversaries of the Heart, and so I needed to get my threads for Block 2, which I'll be starting in February. So I picked up all the ones that I didn't have, and that 123 Stitch did. There's a couple of Gentle Arts that are on back order, so I'll have to find substitutions for those, or who knows, wait for them, or who knows. Anyway, so there's a couple of Gentle Arts here, a couple of Classic Colorworks, and a few Weeks Dye Works. Block 2 is Valentine Rose. So in February, I'll be working on Rose Fairy, Nantucket Rose, and Valentine Rose, all in February. Go figure. So there's those. The reds, there goes that one. I'm not getting it now. The reds are much richer and deeper than they are showing on camera, but I'm not going to stress over that. And I also got a few packs of needles, just because can never have too many needles. And then I thought, okay, threads can't travel without a chart companion. And this design keeps popping up on FlossTube, and every time I see it, as well as on Instagram, I'm like, I need that. I just need it. Y'all, this chart is less than $5, and it is not on clearance. This is the City Stitcher, the Weeping Tree Sampler. I love this. Here my work forever stands, the labor of two busy hands. Also 1843. It's not a reproduction sampler by any stretch, I don't believe. But it's nonetheless, it's really cool. I love this. So some people have already talked about this, but this section of the house here, it is offset from this section of the house by half a stitch. That's kind of interesting. I'll talk about this more later, but this might be going into my mania plans because it's gorgeous and totally enabled by the FlossTube peeps. My color and cotton threads are in my mailbox. I did not go get them before this video. I did receive my nest egg from 3 Owl Threads, so I thought I would show you those, even though the colors are not going to be right. This is a crazy mix of things. Some dark shades and then a bunch of brights, like a couple of oranges and yellows. This is a butter yellow, not that pale. Whatever, I'm not going to fight with the colors. So there is that. I have 3 Owl Threads linked in my description box below if you are looking to join the nest egg. She's got Gentle Arts, Classic Colorworks, Week Star Works, I think Threadworks, I think Krynic. She's got a bunch of options. So head on over there if you are interested in the nest eggs. Those are awesome. I think that's it for stash. So let's keep it rolling and we're going to talk about some books. In the last week, I have finished 2 books again, which is pretty great. These took me a little bit longer to read than I would have expected them to, and as such has put me a little bit behind on my reading schedule for this month. But, you know, it's what it is, and not a big deal. So, the first book that I finished is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This is adult fantasy. There's a lot of violence in this, so just be forewarned. It's not young adult. It's not billed as young adult. It shouldn't be perceived as such. So, this book follows Eli and Victor. Eli and Victor start out as college roommates, and it's like your average college situation. They are brilliant. They are both pre-med, and in one of their classes, they start to explore a thesis. One of them has the thesis of the existence of what are considered EOs, extraordinaries, or people with superpowers, effectively. Long story short, they crack how to gain these extraordinary abilities. There's a whole lot of a magic system kind of a thing. There's a reason why certain people get certain abilities. And the ways in which that you go about gaining these special abilities is pretty violent. So it kind of alternates in timeline. We have present day and we have back when they were in college. So when they were in college, figuring all of this out and going through testing these theories and whatnot. And then we have now, 10 years later, and they're actually arch enemies. They have their superpowers, their abilities, and they are going after each other. This is a revenge story. So it's kind of like Marvel meets Count of Monte Cristo meets, I don't know, I always think like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It always feels like that supernatural sort of undercurrent of life that some people are aware of, but not everybody is. That's what this feels like. It's sassy, it's snarky, it's really smart. V.E. Schwab, she really thinks through everything. Certain personality traits lead to certain super abilities. And so it's really interesting to see how all of this comes together. You don't really know how this is going to end. You get mostly from the perspective of Victor, but like you don't know how this is going to end based on a variety of factors, which is a lot of fun. I ended up rating this 4.5 out of 5 stars. It lost the half star because of how convenient it was for Schwab to basically throw in these fantastical elements and them just make sense. Like, in order for her to make sense, she had to throw in this fantastical element, but because we're reading fantasy, it was convenient. Like, it was just super easy to just, for lack of a better term, magic in this particular element that made the rest make sense. I hope I'm explaining that right. Anyway, convenient writing tactics. The other thing is more spoilers. The other issue that I have with this is more spoilers. But the ending kind of bugged me a little bit. So this book started out as a standalone. It wasn't going to go any further than this. It was going to stop right here. And then she ended up writing a sequel called Vengeful. I don't know exactly what that one is about, but I'm really intrigued about it. And so then she said, okay, it turns out I wasn't done with this story yet, and so here's the second book. Well, now we're waiting on the third book. Apparently, book 2 ended on a massive cliffhanger, and she's decided to pick up from that cliffhanger and write a third book. But we are a long ways out from this third book. From what I understand, she's got other stuff going on, and so the third book could be as much as a year or 2 out. There's no title or anything, really. So it makes me hesitant to pick up book 2. But this was a lot of fun. It was dark and twisty, sassy and sarcastic, and it's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend this one. I read Vicious for a Pop Sugar challenge, and that challenge was to read a book by an author who was in their 20s when they wrote the book, and V.E. Schwab was in her early 20s when this was published. I think it says it. It does not. But she was in her 20s when this was published, so that's why I read that one. The next book that I read, I have tried to talk about a few times already, because I'm going to try to be brief about it, and I seem to be going into too much detail. So the other book that I read is Not That Bad, Dispatches from Rape Culture. This is a collection of essays from 29 individuals and their experiences with rape culture, either traumas that they have experienced themselves or at more of an arm's distance. There's even sort of a journalistic approach to one of the stories in which the author tells about the prevalence of rape in immigrant populations across the globe. So that just kind of gives you an idea of what is covered here. I know that this is touchy stuff and it's tough stuff and it's sort of not dinner table talk, so to speak. So I'm not going to talk about this much more in depth, but I do think that this is important stuff. What I really like about this collection is that it covers all people, like all types of people. It doesn't matter where you're from, anywhere on planet Earth. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what socioeconomic status you are. It doesn't matter what your job description is. It doesn't matter how you identify how you identify your gender. We have men, women, trans, and non-binary all represented here. It doesn't matter how you what your sexuality is. Gay, straight, bisexual, asexual, all of it. It doesn't matter. Everybody is somehow, like 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, impacted by rape culture. And so that's what this collection, I think is the goal of it. I'll be the first to admit that it's hard to read in places because some of these are very personal stories. And I listened to the audiobook, and so they are told by the authors themselves, which adds a whole different level of emotion to these stories. Without going into too much detail, I can relate to a few of these stories, and so it was a little bit like getting kicked in the stomach, just listening to some of these people and their reactions to what happened to them and how they are trying to live their lives despite this trauma in their past. yeah. So it gets pretty personal. I did not rate this book because I'm not going to rate somebody's personal story or somebody's trauma. I'm not in the business of doing that. I could rate on how these stories are told, but again, that's kind of a very personal nature. Some of these people, you can tell the people who are used to speaking and reading aloud, and you can tell the people who are unaccustomed to it. They're a little bit more monotone, they're a little bit more reserved, whereas the people who either speak in public or have read their works out loud, because a lot of these people are authors in some form or fashion, you can tell they've got more personality and more gumption, and they convey emotion a little bit stronger than those who maybe are less accustomed to it. If this is something that, and I hesitate to call it interested, but interested in reading, then I cannot recommend the audiobook enough. First of all, I could see how easy it would be to put this thing down if you were reading it. It would be so easy, but you can't exactly walk away from a conversation with a person. You can, but it's a little bit harder to do. And a lot of these kind of sound like conversations. Somebody talking to you about what has happened to them. I think that this is important because, and evidenced by this collection, everybody is in some form or fashion affected by rape culture. And so how are we supposed to answer the question of how to fix it if we don't talk about it, if we don't hear it, if we don't recognize how prevalent and how damaging sexual assault and rape and sexual misconduct, like how can we address it if we aren't aware of what's going on? We cannot sweep it under the rug and pretend like it never happened. That's not going to fix it. So I think that it's really important for that. But I also warn those who may be triggered by a conversation about these kinds of things to be kind to yourself and to only read as much as you are willing to keep yourself safe. So just want to put that out there. I read that book for a couple of reasons. First and foremost was the Pop Sugar Challenge. My challenge was to read a book that had just words on the cover, no graphics whatsoever. And so this one covers that. I have wanted to read Roxane Gay for a while. She's the feminist I hope to be like when I grow up. And so it just happened to work out. I was trying to figure out a book that I could read for this prompt, and I was watching a booktube video by one of my favorite on booktube. Her name is Books with Emily Fox. That's her channel name. She's a no BS kind of a booktuber, and I really like her. And she talked about this book, and she sort of echoed what I just said about it. And so it just kind of came together. This book isn't technically by Roxane Gay. She just really kind of formulated the book together, but it kind of gives you a sense of what her values are. And so it's a brief toe dip into Roxane Gay, and so I'm hoping to get to Bad Feminist and Hunger at some point this year, if I can. We'll see. So that's what I read those for. So of my 4 pulls from my TBR jar, right there, I completed 3 of them here in January. The 4th one is highly unlikely. I've got about 450 pages left to read, and it's a great book. It's going really well. I'm really enjoying it. But 450 pages in 3 days, I'm not thinking so. But anyway, we'll see. I think that is enough for today. That is everything that I have to show you and discuss with you. As I said, I will be back next week, if all goes well, with a Stitch With Me video, so look forward to that. I'm going to get off here and get this edited and hopefully you all say a prayer for me that I can get this uploaded same day. I think that'd be really great. Hopefully. I'm not holding my breath though. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for your continued support of me and my channel. I hope that you're well. I hope that you're stitching. As always, be kind, and I will see you in the next one.